This is Alan with backlinksjuice.com, and today's topic is SEO-friendly directory submissions. I'll give you some pointers on how to get better rankings using this technique. Got a few things to cover here. Why are they important? Things to avoid, and how do I identify a good service? So directory submissions are pretty straightforward. Yeah, you submit your website to a series of directories. There's thousands and thousands out there, and the benefits of doing something like this are, number one, your site will get found on a lot of these directories. You'll hopefully get some traffic to your site if your listing is done properly, and you'll also get a backlink back to your site. This technique is critical for the long-term success of your SEO strategy. It's also important for short-term success, and in particular, if you're going after highly competitive niches, you really can't achieve top rankings without doing something like this. So there's a lot of problems with your typical directory submission provider, and as well as if you try to do it on your own. First off, there are tens of thousands of directories, and a lot of them have no value at all. And some of the things to look out for are, number one, uh, directories that have an auto approval process, and number two, directories that require that you pay uh, have the submission accepted. Both of these practices are devalued by Google and the other search engines. The reason being, uh, essentially anybody can get in if if you submit, if you pay, and therefore, what's the value? Um, Second thing to look out for is a reciprocal link requirement, which again, this is something that Google is pretty savvy to. If they see links both ways, then they give minimal or no value to those types of links. And another thing to look out for is a lot of the services use directories that are owned by the same person and placed on the same servers, and that's also something that's really easy for the search engines to determine, and therefore it's easy for them to figure out that you've used a service that has done something quick and easy for you, and again, it'll devalue those types of links. Another issue is you may end up getting buried in the directory. Uh, Another example of a directory submission is some directories give you the opportunity to pay to be placed at the front of the queue, and if you don't pay, then you won't get listed essentially. You'll end up being buried for months, and you'll never see a result. Another problem is that Google may never find you if you get buried deeply in a directory. If you do end up getting approved, you may end up on page 10 of the directory, and Google just won't look that far. Other problems are it's tedious if you try to do it yourself. Uh, and a lot of webmasters have underestimated the value of this type of SEO technique because they have had bad experiences, or they may not have sufficient knowledge to actually do it the way that it should be done to maximize the value out of it. Another issue is a lot of providers out there use spammy type software where they will configure their software based on what you provide them with, which is your website, URL description, keywords, and category, and they'll go ahead and submit it. And a lot of directories uh, will have specific criteria that doesn't match up with what the software is submitting for you. And so what happens is if you don't provide the right criteria, you'll automatically get not approved and deleted, and therefore, again, your effort is essentially wasted. So what do you do about some of these problems? The first one we talked about was no directories that have no value. Well, what you want to do is you want to look out for directories that have manual approval processes only, and Google places a lot of value in these types of directories because a human will actually review and determine that the website is worth placing in the directory. Another thing you want to look out for is directories that have PR or PageRank on their interior pages, which will give you a much better value when you're placed in a directory. And very importantly, you want to make sure that the submission matches with what's required by the directory. So if the directory requires a specific subcategory of business, for example, and you only supply the category business, as I mentioned before, they're not likely to approve you. That you'll get rejected, and again, the effort's wasted. And as far as getting buried in the directory, what what we do is we use a software, a website called backlinksindexer.com, and when we get approved for a directory, we run it through backlinksindexer.com, and that will generate a link to the backlink we had just created, and that'll give us some extra link juice that flows back to our website. And as far as the process being tedious, well, as you can imagine, submitting to thousands of directories will take time, and typically the directory requires that you verify your email address, and we have some tools we use to actually automate that process so that you enter your email address once, and as the request comes in, it'll automatically approve for you. And then as far as the spammy software providers, well, there are ways to submit to automate this process. However, the directory software that is worth using is quite expensive. It costs about $5,000 or $6,000. And the reason for that is what the software does is it configures each directory specifically for what the criteria is for that directory. So as my example before, directory might require a specific subdirectory under business, and so that this software will accommodate that, and when the submission comes through, it will have all the required information for that directory, which gives you a much higher chance of getting approved for that directory. And the software we use is constantly updated, so if requirement changes for that directory or a new directory is added, the software is updated, and so it works really well. For more information, there's a link at the bottom of this video.